Welcome to Symphonic Pride, a joint collaboration between the Vancouver Pride Society and the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. My name is Andrew Crust. I'm the VSO Associate Conductor. Today's concert is going to focus on symphonic music, all written by queer composers with an incredible slate of guests and performers. For me, Pride is about celebrating diverse voices. It's about remembering our past struggles and our current struggles and being positive about the future. And it's also about telling stories. And so that's what we're going to do today with the help of a few guests. You just heard the waltz from Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings. Tchaikovsky is perhaps the most famously queer composer throughout all of history, although the official stance by the Russian government today is that he was in fact not gay, which is a reminder of how much work still needs to be done in today's world. Tchaikovsky was very unhappily married to a woman, and although this was a sad state of affairs for him, it definitely provided some fertile soil for his creative life and made for some incredibly powerful music. Up next, we're going to hear the Pronoun Symphony by local Vancouver composer Rodney Sharman, sung by the fantastic soprano Teya Kasahara.
Pronoun experts all advise not to trust an outward guise. Ask what pronoun best applies. You can't be decided. Binary is so passé. Gender variations and gradations, shades of gray, may need a singular.
I'm Rodney Sharman, former composer-in-residence of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. It was my piece you just heard, the Pronoun Symphony, which is really more the music of Franz Joseph Haydn, and I am really more the lyricist. The lyrics come from my time teaching young people who were the first non-binary people I ever encountered, the first time I ever used the pronoun they. I learned a lot from them, not only in terms of understanding a kind of gender fluidity, but also about treating people better, treating people on their terms with respect. And this really is an initiative of young people. It doesn't come from my generation or the generation before me or the generation after. Aaron Copland, the composer of the next piece, Quiet City, was born in 1900, a time when it was really uncomfortable to be gay, and he was known actually as a bachelor composer, even though he is from Brooklyn and lived in New York City. The piece to me has this marvelous quality where the trumpet conveys loneliness. This is not only true of this piece, but there are other pieces of Copland where it has this feeling. The English horn in this beautiful match of tone colors really to me is like the male adolescent voice. So the piece to me evokes a kind of loneliness and sensitivity, marvelous work which I've admired for years.
I feel I must fight for my music because I want women to turn their minds to big and difficult jobs, not just to go on hugging the shore, afraid to put out to sea. These words are from Dame Ethel Smythe, composer, activist, socialite, and was the first female composer to be awarded damehood. Like so many aspiring female composers in the 19th century, Smythe's father and practically everyone else in her life opposed her musical aspirations. Smythe defiantly persevered, learning from esteemed tutors. She studied composition at Leipzig Conservatory in Germany and was even encouraged by Tchaikovsky, Dvorak, and Brahms. Passionate and unapologetic, she was equally active as a member of the women's suffrage movement in the UK. She even took a 2-year hiatus from music to become, in her words, a militant suffragette. During this period, she was incarcerated for 2 months after the authorities arrested her and more than 100 other suffragettes for breaking the windows of their political opponents. In 1911, Smythe composed The March of Women, which became the anthem for England's women's movement. Smythe was public about her nonconformist sexual identity. Many of her romantic partners were famous women, including the French Empress, Eugénie de Montijo. At the age of 71, Smythe fell in love with Virginia Woolf, who would have been in her 40s at the time. Woolf described it as like being caught by a giant crab, for better or worse. Smythe constantly lamented the backwards and inane attitudes towards gender during her time, and once said, "When will our men rid themselves of this sex obsession, so graceful in the adolescent, so hideous in old gentlemen at club windows, but, to say the least of it, out of place in art criticism? You see it at its most rampant in connection with music. If a work is too long, it is feminine discursiveness, as if men were always brief and to the point, good heavens. If snappy and abrupt, it is a woman's impatience. But if direct, lucid, and strong, these are qualities we do not, as a rule, look for in women."
Hi, my name is Dave Davey DiCarlo, and I'm Dave Davey on Davey. And I'm in this amazing building, the Orpheum, with the VSO. And I wanted to talk about Pride, Pride 2021 and Pride from about 40 years ago. We have such a wide variety of what has happened in our community. And it's really important for us to stand tall and be part of this amazing, diverse community in Vancouver. Vancouver is probably one of the most diverse communities in Canada. The mix of people and unique souls is absolutely phenomenal. I myself, born here, conceived under the Lionsgate Bridge in Stanley Park, a true Vancouverite. My partner and I opened up 2 businesses down in the queer community. We had the first drag stage on Denman Street and the first drag stage on Davie Street. It's been an interesting time when we look back into the AIDS epidemic and the COVID epidemic of today. There's a lot of comparisons, and the fear has actually taken a lot in our community, and a lot of people are going through very difficult times right now. Gaetan Dugas was the first person that I met back in 1982 in Vancouver. He was kicked out of New York, kicked out of San Francisco. Vancouver wanted to get rid of him. We now know that he was not the sole carrier of the AIDS virus, which was actually originated as gay cancer, then went to GRID and became AIDS after it went through all of its different values. Fear is still a part of that. In the COVID time, fear is really difficult. We're starting to see a community actually gather together and start to feel comfortable. Wearing masks, huge part of it. Just bring love into your community, bring love into the queer part of yourself, and just enjoy being part of such an amazing community in this amazing city in Vancouver on the West Coast. Thank you.
Up next, we have a set of songs by Austrian composer Franz Schubert. Schubert died at a tragically young age, but he was one of the more prolific composers in history, writing symphonies, chamber music, vocal music, piano music, but his most intimate music, and I think his best, is his lieder, or his songs, and we're going to do 3 of those for you today. First, we have Gretchen am Spinnrad, the story of a young woman who is experiencing a lot of turmoil in her life as she's spinning a loom and making fabric, and you can hear the loom in the accompaniment. Up next, we have An Silvia, and finally, the showstopper of all showstoppers of Schubert, Erlkönig. In the story of Erlkönig, written by Goethe, there is a father riding through the forest in the middle of the night, carrying his son in his arms, and his son is clearly sick and is having visions of the Earl King reaching out to him. His father tries to console him, but in the end, well, I won't spoil it for you. Here is Gretchen am Spinnrad, An Silvia, and Erlkönig, sung by Thea Kasahara.
Mein Herz ist schwer, ich finde sie nimmer und nimmer. Wo ich ihn nicht hab, ist mir das Grab, die ganze Welt ist mir vergällt. Mein armer Kopf ist mir verrückt, mein armer Sinn ist mir zerstückt. Meine Ruhe ist hin, mein Herz ist schwer, ich finde sie nimmer und nimmer. Nach ihm nur schau ich zum Fenster hinaus, nach ihm nur geh ich aus dem Haus. Sein hoher Gang, sein edle Gestalt, seines Mondes Lächeln, seine Augengewalt und seine Rede zum Befluss, sein Händedruck und ach, sein Kuss. ist Vater da, den Erlenkönig nicht, den Erlenkönig mit Kron und Schweif. Mein Sohn, es ist ein Nebelstreif. Du liebes Kind, komm, geh mit mir, gar schön, ich spiel ich mit dir. Manch bunte Blumen sind an dem Strand, meine Mutter hat manch Güte gewandt. Mein Vater, und hörest du nicht, was Erlenkönig mir leise verspricht? Sei ruhig, bleibe ruhig, mein Kind, in dürren Blättern säuselt der Wind. Willst, meine Knabe, du mit mir gehen? Meine Töchter sollen die warten schön, meine Töchter führen den nächtlichen Rhein. Sie wiegen und tanzen und singen die Schein, sie wiegen und tanzen und singen die Schein. Mein Vater, und siehst du nicht dort, Erlenkönigstöchter am besten Ort? Mein Sohn, ich seh es genug, es scheinen die alten Weiden so grau. Ich liebe dich, mich reizt deine schöne Gestalt, und bist du nicht wenig, so brauch ich Gewalt. Mein Vater, jetzt hast du mich schon, komme Gott, wie ein Neugetan. Der Vater krauset, reitet geschwind, hält in Dornen, das Ächzen beginnt. Reicht den Hof mit Mühe und Not. In seinen Armen das Kind war tot.
Up next, Toronto-based spoken word artist Kai Cheng Tom will present her piece Diaspora Babies.
Diaspora babies, we are born of pregnant pauses spilled from unwanted yellow wombs, squalling invisible ink poems written in the margins of a map of a place called No Homeland. Old Gong Gong, honored uncle, is the man I won't become. Barbecue pork-scented sorrow and red bean paste buns he sold on street corners in Chinatown, handing out sweetbread and stories for 75 cents each. Red meat and red hands, red meat and red hands, red meat and red hands, stained by the winter wind's violence, as the goddess of mercy watched, pitying from her curbside altar. Diaspora bodies we wrap, lips around pregnant pauses, spill salt fluids from unwanted bodies, squalling invisible ink poetry written in the margins of a map of a place called No Homeland. My boy makes me breakfast the morning after. He's the air I breathe, love-flavored oxygen. I taste him everywhere. Sun-dried orange peel candy, like the kind my father used to bring on car trips. The color of his skin, brown, salty sweet. We gorge ourselves on love, not thinking about tomorrow. There's never enough time to make you feel full, never enough flesh to fill your skin. We open our mouths for stories, For sun-tinted histories swallow each other whole here in this place with no room for mercy. Diaspora secrets we enclose in pregnant pauses, write on the walls of unwanted wombs, invisible ink poems in the margins of bodies, living out a map of a place called no homeland. Red, red, red is the color of my mother's scars, as though the goddess of mercy went finger-painting across her face, a map of things we don't talk about, a mask made of things we don't talk about. There are some stories that are never told, but known. Nevertheless, we bake them into bread, fill buns with secrets like sweet lotus paste. What can't be cured must be endured. What can't be cured must be endured. Chinese families don't talk about our feelings. We wash them down with pork. Do as you are told, child. Eat what's in your bowl, swallow it, bitter or sweet, some violence we keep inside our body, scar, tissue. Love. What love? The kind they talk about in Guaylo films. Chinese women know better than to even speak about love because we know people will laugh at us. Some bodies can't be touched. Some poems cannot be written, just felt. Diaspora haunted, we hunt for pregnant pauses, give birth from unwanted yellow wombs, bodies like invisible ink poems, ghost children drawing maps in the margins of a place called no homeland.
A special thank you to Andrea Arnott and everybody at the Vancouver Pride Society, as well as the fantastic musicians of the VSO, VSO soloists Larry Knopp, Beth Orson, and our guest artist Taya Kasahara. Also thank you to all of the guests who came and spoke today. Happy Pride to you all, and see you soon.
Be my music to eyes.